Many entrepreneurs will tell you that their success comes from surrounding themselves with the right people. People that believe in the mission, that will sacrifice to achieve goals, and support each other every step of the way. Our next Iowa entrepreneur story features Clint Gerner, Chris McCann, and Nate Reinhardt, owners of Capital Armament, an ammunition manufacturer better known as CapArms. But before they were business partners, the three were childhood friends growing up in the suburbs of Minneapolis.
We started off, our families are really the ones that connected initially at church, and so that's where we all met, probably 4th, 5th grade. And just a really great dynamic. We're all really close in age, and we were just very like-minded, so we hit it off really well. We played sports together, and our families hung out, so it gave us a reason to, ultimately spend extra time together.
Right out of high school, the three friends all joined different branches of the military. Clint joined the Marines, Chris enlisted in the Army, and Nate pursued a career in the Air Force.
When we all went into the military, we actually didn't talk for a good period of time. We were separated by a lot of space and a lot of miles, so we didn't see each other for quite some time.
After the military, the three friends continued to follow their own paths.
When I got into the Marine Corps, I went straight into the financial world, doing essentially financial sales. And I didn't like the sales aspect, but I liked the asset management and financial planning side of it. So I taught myself how to do that stuff. And then when I opened my own firm, I got to learn all about owning your own business. And for a lot of people, when they look at owning your own business, they think, oh, it's a lot more flexibility and free time and everything else. And you learn very quickly that you spend the days working in your business and you spend the evenings working on your business.
In the late 2000s, Clint began to feel burnt out from the daily grind of finance.
You wear a suit 80 hours a week, sit in an office. I had a really nice office, but that's where I lived essentially. And so I missed the adrenaline rush and the excitement of being in the Marine Corps. And I've got combat tours and everything. And so there's a little bit of an addiction to adrenaline that happens from that. And so I found 3-gun. I stumbled onto it as a shooting competition. And so I went out to a match and tried it and absolutely fell in love with the sport.
3-gun is a shooting event where competitors utilize gun handling and shooting skills with 3 different types of firearms. Clint was traveling to many different states to compete in these events.
And with traveling a lot, I was shooting a lot of ammo. At one point, I think I shot, I want to say 2012 was my highest consumption year, and I shot over 60,000 rounds of ammunition. And especially for the high-grade stuff that I was shooting for competitions, that's a lot of money when you're shooting $1 a pop, essentially. And so I said to myself, hey, Clint, there's got to be a way for you to make good ammunition at a lower price than buying it. And so I set up a little reloading room in my basement, and I just had a single stage press. And ultimately, when I look at the value of my time, it probably cost me money to do that. But I started making ammo and got a reputation for making really good ammo. And other guys who were competing with me started asking me for it.
In 2012, ammunition was in short supply, not only for competition, but also for small police departments and law enforcement agencies. In some cases, police departments weren't receiving their orders for more than a year. So in 2013, Clint filed paperwork with the ATF and started his own ammunition manufacturing company. Clint knew that he was going to need help in starting his business, so he turned to his childhood friends and fellow experts in firearms and ammunition.
It started initially with just me and Chris was part-time. I was full-time. I dumped everything I had into this company. So not only in providing startup financing, but in saying, okay, I know for the first year I'm not taking a paycheck. And so setting aside enough of my savings that I could live on it for the first year. And then after about 8 months into it, when we had the opportunity to bring Nate on, and I saw the value in Nate right away. Nate's a systems guy. And so to have him come on and be the chief of operations for the company and have another full-time person in who had the resources to kind of do the same full-time, let's not take a paycheck for a little while we build this up, that was a huge help. And then eventually Chris ended up leaving his other job and going from part-time sales to full-time.
With the three friends now running a business in a rented space close to home in Minnesota, things seem to be going well. That quickly changed when the Minnesota State Fire Marshal came for an inspection.
I can remember the day he walked in because I'd never met him before in my life. I asked him to come into our office and kind of give us some advice. So I thought, we're doing the right thing. This is going to be great. And we're going to have his say and his assistance with this. And the first thing he said to me was, "Nate, I'm shutting you down." And so I said, "Well, that's not good." With a just straight face, he said, "No, it's not." So from that moment on, I thought, oh man, what are we going to do from here? This is obviously serious.
While the local fire marshal had approved the building, the state fire marshal found their facility ill-suited to handle smokeless gunpowder.
You work so hard to kind of get this thing going, and then to kind of have the news that we received was kind of devastating. But the three of us we're fighters. We'll never just give up and roll over.
It wasn't so much despair or we've got to shut everything down. It was more a very quick realization that we had a big problem to solve as a company and that we had to figure that out and do it quickly.
Clint reached out to a contact from his finance days to help them search for a new location.
This guy owns a company, and the sole thing they do is move growing businesses out of Minnesota to the surrounding states, to states that are more friendly to business. And so I reached out to him and said, "Hey, this is what I'm doing now instead of the finance thing. I've got a mire. I need to find a new community to move my business to."
In January 2015, CapArms made the move to Sibley. They purchased 23 acres of land and started the planning of a brand new production facility. Sibley is in the northwest corner of Iowa, just south of the Minnesota border. Sibley is driven by the surrounding agriculture and has many businesses for a town of just 2,800 citizens. One thing that made Sibley stand out is the emergence of a youth shooting sports team at the Sibley-Ochaden High School, one of the first high schools in Iowa to sanction a competition shooting team. The three owners met with local and state officials to make sure that Sibley was going to be a good fit for their business. But it wasn't happily ever after just yet. In order to start production as soon as possible, CapArms worked out of a temporary location in Sibley and commuted every week from their homes in the Twin Cities.
We traveled together in the truck. We would game plan our week. It was kind of like a business meeting, but in the truck. About 3.5 hours on the road. We would leave very early Monday mornings around 5 a.m. And basically we were home with our wives and kids. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and we then again hit the road. And our wives were phenomenal. I mean, our kids were there to support us as well. They knew that this was our dream, and three childhood friends were going to set out to put this dream into action.
During the summer of 2015, Clint, Chris, and Nate brought their families to Sibley, and by the end of the year, the brand new CapArms facility was up and running just outside of town.
Sibley, Iowa, to us is definitely a fresh start for a new home. I think that it's definitely a godsend. This opportunity has been just amazing to have a place that we can call our own, and something where we can really grow into. We had this dream in our 10-year business plan, but never envisioned it, in 2 years.
CapArms is a federally certified, service-disabled, veteran-owned business. It took sacrifice from Clint, Chris, and Nate to start their company. While they might not always be in the ammunition business together, it will be a shared memory of achievement that they will always have.
As much as being an entrepreneur and being a business owner is building something that you own, you have to have the right partners. And had I not brought on the right partners in starting this business, I don't think we would have made it. And that's the reason that the stats are so high with so many businesses. It's not necessarily about how well capitalized you are or if you have the right product. It really comes down to having the right partners and the right people to work with you. Are they going to stay all night when you need to pull an all-nighter because you have to get an order out the door? Are they going to sacrifice when you need to sacrifice for the company? Those are the big questions that really a business owner and somebody starting a business should ask themselves.
I'll tell you what, the best part about being an entrepreneur is waking up every day, going to work, knowing that what you're creating is ultimately your future. And it's for not only you, but the people that you get to affect and work with. It's so much bigger than myself. So to be a part of something like that is absolutely amazing. I mean, it's hard for me to call what we do work because there's such a passion behind it and there's so much love for the people that we work with that to call this work would be unfair.
Fairfield, Iowa is a unique community in the southeast part of our state. It is a hub for small business and commerce in the area. It has earned the title as one of Iowa's great places and was once called America's Most Unusual Town by Oprah. One thing that makes Fairfield unique is the Maharishi University of Management, also known as MUM, an accredited university offering degrees in business, fine arts, education, and science. What makes this university different is its focus on inner growth, wellness, sustainability, and the campus-wide practice of transcendental meditation. One business that has come out of MUM is Ideal Energy, a business started by Troy and Amy Van Beek.
So we're a solar design and installation firm, and we've been implementing affordable solar in the Midwest. 2015, we installed about a megawatt worth of solar. And last year we installed 1.2 megawatts worth of solar. So we're rapidly increasing. This year we're on schedule to install over 2 megawatts worth of solar.
Before coming to Fairfield and studying at the Maharishi University of Management, Troy was a Navy SEAL. He traveled the globe and was in some of the world's most dangerous places.
I joined what I think is the most elite team that is functioning in America right now, which is the Navy SEAL teams. And I went in because I really wanted to test myself and I wanted to evolve as a person. So I got my experience in high-risk personal protection as I worked for the Department of State in Afghanistan. And I was a lead sniper on a detail that protected Hamid Karzai, the president of Afghanistan. And there was over 40 people on our detail. It was protecting one of the most wanted dead individuals on the planet at the time. So obviously high team cooperation and something like that. But we gathered a lot of experience. I moved that to Africa where we started a company called Ridgeback, which was a high-risk personal protection outfit there. And I was in the process of implementing that when I actually decided to transition and come back to the States and get involved in what turned out to be sustainability, which turned out to be solar, and what I'm doing now.
It might seem like a leap to go from an elite military team to renewable energy. But while a lot of people look at solar panels and wind turbines as green energy, Troy, with his military background, saw something more.
The one thing that I always recognized being in a combat zone is that you do have the haves and the have-nots. You have resource-deprived individuals, which is usually the reason for the conflict. But I am absolutely convinced that through this process of renewable energy, of creating the eventual effect of free energy, and I believe that that's true, that from that we will evolve into where we don't have war anymore.
Looking to have a greater impact on the world, Troy came back to the United States where he studied sustainability.
Well, I came back to Fairfield, Iowa, for the education. It was a university here that I had looked up while I was online and I was in Africa and I was implementing our security company. When I I had looked it up, it had interested me, and it was in the middle of Iowa. I'd never thought about coming to Iowa. And one of the factors in there was they had one of the first 4-year degrees in sustainability. At that time, really nobody was even talking about sustainability. Like when I would mention it to other people that I'm looking at a degree in sustainability, they would ask me, well, what is sustainability?
As Troy was attending the university, the faculty and staff noticed something special in him, and Troy became involved in several university projects.
The university itself was evolving. So as they've taken on a bigger role in sustainability, they were kind of implementing more changes to the university. I saw those changes were necessary, so I actually dropped out while I was getting my degree and helped them implement some of these changes. We installed a wind turbine that students had built. I helped implement that. I was building a biodiesel processor. So that was a big part of my education, was just whatever they saw that I could help implement, that was what I was doing. And the beauty of the university is they're just there to support you, kind of evolve your ideas.
Troy's efforts did not go unnoticed in the community. City officials asked him and one of his professors to help develop their Go Green strategic plan.
So while I was in college and I had implemented a lot of these changes to the university, the mayor, Ed Malloy of Fairfield, had asked me to participate on a commission that was going to run for about a year, a little more, that was going to implement a plan of sustainability for the community. In that process, we reached out with this plan and communicated with all the businesses and asking them, if we find something that will help the community evolve sustainably, will you support us? And that was really our question. And we introduced a plan to them. They got to read it, they got to be involved in that, and they got to sign off and say, we want to help. So that was me being introduced to the community processes, and then recognizing that there was really no businesses to implement the actual changes, none specific to implement the changes. And that's where the idea of Ideal Energy came from.
Troy and his wife Amy started Ideal Energy, one of the first solar companies in Iowa. Amy had a background in construction and had been a part of building an eco-village in the area before starting Ideal Energy. At the time, solar energy equipment was expensive, but through government incentives, local businesses started to see the long-term payoff.
At the time that the incentives really lined up, basically it meant that all of a sudden a business could invest in solar and it would be lucrative. It would actually be a smart business decision. And coming out of the recession, there were not too many investments that could give the kind of yields that an investment in solar could. And of course, this is through the avoided costs of utility expenses. But it was still compelling enough that we really didn't have a big problem selling it to businesses. The problem was that we were a mom and pop organization, and how are we going to install, all these systems by ourselves in the first year that we really sold.
Troy and Amy were running their mom and pop business out of their home, which had its advantages.
Early on, we had a number of assets, I think, that were helping us in launching our company. One is that we were living in one of the homes that I had built out at the Eco Village, which was solar powered, and so it's a lot easier to sell solar if you can say, hey, my home is powered 100% on solar and wind. So that was actually pretty helpful. And especially when we were meeting with some of these smaller businesses in town that were pretty aware of the Eco Village, it was nice to actually even bring people out there and be able to give them a tour and, here's this technology, and yes, it's working, and it's the middle of winter, and, and my lights are on and all that.
Even though the operation was small, Ideal Energy sold solar panels equaling 150 kilowatts of energy in that first year of business, with Troy and Amy doing all the sales and installations themselves.
In the early days, I was the installer and the salesperson, and my wife was doing the marketing, and we would go through what we call the solar coaster. And it's not like that's changed that much, it's just the scale has changed. Is that back then, I would have to construct the arrays that I had sold, and then while I was constructing, I couldn't sell anything. So we would go through this up and this down and this cycle. Now we have employees that can keep selling while we're constructing. So we have the construction and the sales department. and we're growing much faster now, but that was kind of where we had started.
In 2013, a project in Fort Madison would catapult their business. Ideal Energy worked with a developer converting an old high school into energy-efficient apartments. They installed over 300 kilowatts of solar panels in one project.
When we signed Fort Madison, I think it was validation that the solar industry was really starting to take hold in the state in the way that we were hoping that it would, and really needed it to in order for us to stay. And that job actually enabled us to start building our workforce and taking on more employees, who many of which are still with us today. We internalize our construction within our company. We do everything ourselves because we want to build on that solar expertise and really that specialty.
Troy and Amy lead a great team. Every one of their employees plays a vital role in their organization. Troy attributes his team building and leadership skills to his time in the military.
The team in the military in the military in general is fantastic. It just goes above and beyond anything that you could find outside of the military. But the SEAL teams takes it to a whole nother level, and it's about the group that you're working with. I've tried to take that and embody it into our culture here, which is just the care that we have for our employees. So we've really, having my wife's background, which she had a family business when we first met, and in my team background has just kind of created the perfect storm, I believe, for that type of team.
Troy and Amy found a team that care for and believe in the mission of Ideal Energy. For many of them, this business is more than a job. It is a way to make a difference in the world.
Yeah, I can say that it hasn't been easy, but I would say that because of my background, because of my process, because of the evolution of the thought process and what we're doing and why, it's easy because there's no other thing that I would do. It is a driving force. It's a driving force for me that I communicate with our employees, and our employees get it. They feel the passion, and they want to be involved as well. And when we communicate that with our customer base, they get it. So on that level, it's very empowering. It allows me to work 24/7. Where in something else, I might not have that drive. So being impassioned by something makes it easy. It's hard work, and we put in the time and energy to it, but it's easy because I wouldn't do anything else. This is where I know that I'm meant to be.